Welcome to the Salish Sea Fellowship Sunday afternoon service, December 15th, 2024. Our speaker is Joseph Bednarik. His sermon title is Holding Hands with Grace. We hope you enjoy this recording of our service, and we hope to see you in person some Sunday afternoon. Thanks for listening.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Salish Sea Fellowship. We're a religious community with open hearts and open minds, embracing the traditional principles of Unitarianism and Universalism. I'm Brian Rogers, the pulpit assistant today. Our speaker is Joseph Bednarik, who really needs no introduction. We all know Joseph and look forward to hearing from him. If you haven't already done so, please place your telephone in worship mode so as to not disturb the time that we have together. And now I invite us to settle in and quiet our minds. We will begin our sacred time. Dan will light our chalice with the words in your program. Oh no, the words are not in the program. So in times of light and times of darkness, may this small flame kindle what is good in us and in the world.
So the reading this afternoon is a poem that I just discovered by a poet I don't know, and I came upon it. I love coming upon poems and just being startled and surprised. I was looking for a poem about strangers, and I came upon this one called I Confess by Alison Luderman. I stalked her in the grocery store, her crown of snowy braids held in place by a great silver clip, her erect bearing radiating tenderness. The way she placed yogurt and avocados in her basket, beaming peace like the North Star. I wanted to ask, what aisle did you find your serenity in? Do you know how to be married for 50 years? Or how to live alone? Excuse me for interrupting, but you seem to possess some knowledge that makes the earth burn and turn on its axis. But we don't request such things from strangers nowadays. So I said, I love your hair.
There was mickle melody at that childish birth. mickle mirth.
Lay my king, my dear son, my sweeting. Lay my dear heart, mine own dear darling. Angels bright they sang that night, and said unto the child, Blessed be thou, and so be she, that is both meek and mild. Lay my king, my dear son, my sweeting. Lay my dear heart, my own dear darling. Bring me now to that child and to his mother dear. God grant them all his blessing, that now make us cheer. Lay my king, my dear son, my sweeting. Lay my dear heart, my own dear darling.
And our speaker today is Joseph Bednarik, speaking on holding hands with grace.
So I have to say that this is just they tell you what you're going to hear, and then you get to hear it, and then they tell you what you've just heard. So what you're about to hear is a story of strangers meeting in a warm and comfortable place during the winter holiday season and falling in love for a few hours, and then returning to their lives, knowing that the genuine expressions of love that we give to others may be our only option moving forward. And so welcome to the upper section of that holiday luge chute, what I like to call the winter holiday season luge chute, with Thanksgiving long gone, Black Friday, Buy Nothing Day, St. Nicholas Day, Cyber Monday behind us, coming on fast, winter solstice, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and on January 2nd or 3rd or 5th, that practical conclusion to the winter holiday season, the is it too late to return this thing day? And here in mid-December, I hope that that list of holidays to come brought you the anticipation of joy rather than the onset of pre-event anxiety, fatigue, and stomach acid faucets starting to pour in. And here, looking out from the height of the winter holiday luge chute, it is safe to say that few people on planet Earth would confuse Port Hadlock with Manhattan. And while the list of differences is deep and wide and long and obvious, there is at least one very rich and fulfilling similarity in that in each locale, there is a building that houses and serves a congregation of people, humanists and mystics, theists and atheists, believers, skeptics, and seekers who practice a religion called Unitarian Universalism. Now, I know this firsthand because I've attended services with both congregations. And I visit New York City with some frequency, often when the winter holiday season is beginning to crank up. And I want to share a story with you that happened there a few years back. So whenever I'm in New York, and I happen to be there on a Sunday, I love attending services at Fourth Universalist Church. And I find great solace that in this massive city of 8 million people, there is at least one room where the familiar hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, is placed on each chair, and where the sermons and the service themes play and wrestle and celebrate in familiar UU ways. And while the hymnals and the services and the sermons are similar, the differences between the hymns profound. Fourth Universalist was built in 1890, and it is called the Cathedral of Universalism. It is a true-to-life cathedral, the architecture being English perpendicular Gothic. Now, the whole architectural enchilada was praised by the famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright, whose daughter was married in the church. A wedding ceremony among the arches and soaring ceilings, the stained glass and the mosaics, the altar, which was made by Louis Comfort Tiffany, the glorious pipe organ, donated by Louise Carnegie, wife of Andrew Carnegie, who was a member of the church. You get the idea. Now, this cathedral overlooks Central Park, and it has attracted notable personalities over the years, such as the Carnegie family, baseball great Lou Gehrig, Oscar Hammerstein of Rodgers and Hammerstein, and one of my favorite Universalists of all time, space, and dimension, the great circus showman P.T. Barnum, who said, among thousands of colorful quotes, this beautiful sentence: "The noblest art is that of making others happy," which is a sentence worth repeating today, tomorrow, and moving forward. The noblest art is that of making others happy. Now, at its height, this cathedral would hold over 1,000 congregants on a Sunday morning. And so just imagine that, 1,000 Universalists making their way to the Upper West Side, walking along Central Park West to enter a cathedral, to feel that uplift, to feel the power of common unity, community, to hear that pipe organ reverberate, the sunshine pouring through the stained glass, and imagine the unmiked voice from the pulpit speaking to the back row, sharing a message of universal salvation. And imagine socializing after church, and then the people pouring out of the doorway, re-entering the Alpha Sea, renewed by practicing their religion, and then seeing the divinity in everyone else they saw. Now, as time went on, as wars came and went, 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 as television and the internet and social media were invented, embraced with worshipful fervor, the societal sanctity of Sundays was eroded by commerce and sports. Disengagement with organized religion became quite commonplace, and the congregation of Fourth Universalist, like congregations across the country and congregations across denominations, died off and dwindled, and it became financially burdensome to keep current with the upkeep and capital investments required for the Cathedral of Universalism. Real estate developers, drooling over what they could build on this spot on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and thus the values wrestling of the much reduced congregation. Is our purpose to care for a physical cathedral, a certified religious and historical landmark to be sure, or are we here to promote the vision and values of the religion we hold so dear? And not that they're mutually exclusive, sure, but there can be tension in those two things, hopefully a creative tension. And for example, on one of my Sunday visits to Fourth Universalist, I enjoyed the service in this grand cathedral. Maybe 50 people in attendance, maybe. So this is about the size of a typical Sunday. We'd be around Pinner's in Mount Vernon, and that vast and soaring space, architectural and artistic grandeur, it felt less than uplifting, and it felt, frankly, a wee bit oppressive. In a city of 8 million people, about 50 showed up for the service, which is approximately 0.0000006% of the population, and I invite all the humanists here to correct my math after the service. Now, truth be told, at that point, I would have preferred the snugness of the sanctuary here, along with visiting the Cathedral of Universalism on the north side. I also visited what I've called the Cathedral of Cured Meats. It's a marina in the west side that is the best cured meats on the planet. Those who come into it, they sell. And my apologies to the vegetarians and the vegan among us. Please know that I was you. This snug little bar behind the pillar is that the chairs are really close together, even closer than this, right? And there is no ignoring that there is a stranger dining right next to you, which, as you might imagine, can be awkward for the bashful, downright painful for the shy. I am neither. So I offered my new barmaid some bread and some olive oil to dip it into. And to my delight, the woman accepted the gift with this grateful smile and, oh, thank you, I am so hungry. And I'm happy that they found room for me. I'm happy you're here, I said. Raised my glass in a welcoming toast to her presence. And with those ancient gifts of bread and oil, with relief and gratitude of finding a place, and with a welcoming toast amidst the sounds of hustle and bustle and fellow human beings eating dinner, our conversation began. We learned about each other through sharing basic biographical facts and through the telling of stories from our lives. I told her that I worked for an independent publishing house dedicated to poetry. Oh, who do you publish? She asked. And I told her a few poets' names, including W.S. Merwin, very famous poet. Ah, I know Merwin's poetry. I see it in the New Yorker. And I noticed that she used the verb to see rather than to read, but I took the recognition as a win. And I can say that we genuinely enjoyed each other's company, and I learned that her name was Grace. Of course your name is Grace, I thought to myself. We ordered another glass of wine, and I told Grace that I had attended services that Sunday at Fourth Universalist Church. And not only did I attend services, but I was that guy. I was that Unitarian Universalist who stuck around after the service to listen to a presentation about their capital campaign to raise over $1 million to fix the slate roof. Oh, I've done some consulting work for Fourth, she said. What? Yeah. I've done some financial consulting work with them, and I will actually occasionally attend services there. Pause. How small and how random is the world? In a restaurant in a city of 8 million people, I happen to sit next to another lone diner at a favorite restaurant and discover a common connection through a church that I attend maybe once a year, along with approximately 0.0000006% of the population of Manhattan. Now, from that point on, we're all in. We talked, we laughed, we allowed ourselves to be buoyed by the food and the wine, the good company, the holiday cheer. And when it came time for the check, the server placed one check between us, assuming that we were on a date. Now, both Grace and I burst out laughing, realizing that to neutral servers, we did appear like we were on a date, a very successful and fun date. So we asked for the check to be separated. We paid our own way, though to this day I really do wish that I had made a classy move to pick up the check. And as we got ready to leave, truth be told, I did not want the evening to end. We stood outside the restaurant, crisp December night air in New York, and I said, "Can I walk you home?" "Sure," she said, and we turned toward her apartment building. And after a few steps, I just felt this surge of goodwill toward the world, the buoyancy of the evening, the effervescence of the moment. And I decided to make a bold move. Grace, I said, would you mind if we held hands as we walked? She paused for a moment and then said, I'd like that. So there we were. One tops 2 hours earlier did not even know about each other's existence, walking down Amsterdam Avenue, hand in hand, healthy, happy, delighted to be alive, and delighted to be together. When we got to her apartment building, she said, this is it. We hugged goodbye. We wished each other happy holidays, and we've never seen or heard of each other again. And I just love this story of perfect strangers enjoying each other's company in such a profound way. And when I told my parents the story, my mother, she was shocked. How could you? She said. How couldn't I responded. Now fast forward a few days later, on my business trip, I'm on the last day of my business trip, I decided to go back to that Salumeria for my last big city meal, right, on the expense account. And once again, I'm the one top seated at the short bar. But this time the restaurant was not as busy, and there were 2 empty seats between me and the other diner, a man who was wearing a windbreaker. And I was relieved, frankly, because I wanted to be alone with my thoughts and my food and not to spend a bundle of energy talking with a stranger. And how interesting, I wondered to myself, that one night you feel like talking and another night you just feel like being quiet, being with your own thoughts. And yet the guy at the end of the bar would not shut up. He kept leading toward me and talking, so much so that he moved his place setting to sit right next to me to force the conversation. Jesus, there's no fighting this, I thought. So I decided to go all in, and I learned about Michael, how Michael was engaged to the love of his life, how he broke his neck and suffered severe head trauma and a horrific motorcycle accident, how he couldn't bear to be with his beloved in that condition, so he called the wedding off, and how he now lives down the street in a home for folks with disabilities. Pulls out his wallet, shows me pictures, he's telling me that he's writing a motivational book. He loves this neighborhood restaurant, and I tell Michael, I'm on it with Grace. Here in the very spot. How we walk together back to her building, holding hands. Bold move, dude, he says. And I tell him that I wish holding hands wasn't a quote-unquote bold move. That it should be as normal as shaking hands or slapping high five, but yeah, I get it, bold move. And Michael and I finished dinner at the same time. And unlike my earlier dinner with Grace, the servers delivered separate checks. And when we step outside in the crisp holiday air, I asked Michael if I can walk him home. He agrees. And Michael, I said, can we hold hands? He bursts into this smile, pulls off his glove, offers me his warm hand. And so there we were. One tops, who 2 hours earlier did not know of each other's existence, walking down the street hand in hand, healthy and happy, delighted to be alive, delighted to be together. And when we got to his apartment building, he said, this is it. We hugged goodbye. We wished each other the happiest of holidays. And somewhere in universalist heaven, P.T. Barnum's heart was just swelling as he recalled what he had said during his precious days on this gorgeous planet. The noblest art is that of making others happy. And we may move forward into our holiday season, and may we practice that noblest art. And so a very happy and a very loving Amen.
Please join me with our closing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the loving joy of being freely together. We carry that joy until we meet again.